right? And I bust ass again.
Oh my god! Of course you did.
Cut it. Nah.
Cut that.
We ain't
Cut that.
cutting
Edit
it.
that out.
No. Look at a penny and he's going.
Abraham winking when he hasn't showered in a few days.
Abraham stinking.
Bro. Yo.
Oh shit! We back.
Cultureology.
What is going on, everybody? This
And
is
we actually
Cultureology.
Some guests with us today. We'll
First
allow
guest
them to
ever.
introduce themselves.
What's going on, y'all? My name is Brandon. I've founded Comix Kings, and that is the brand that we run under YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. We're a review comic book show where we that's exactly what we do. We review comics, we analyze different comic book conversations, different things in the comic book world. There's really no limit to what we cover. We do a lot of creator interviews, and we do a lot of like trade paperback deep dives into a lot of these stories, into a lot of these topics. It's been a great ride, and thank you guys so much for having us on today.
Yeah, man.
absolutely.
I'm glad you guys were able to come on, man.
Well, we were
An
all
absolute
thinking
pleasure.
too. We were all thinking like, oh, we need to try to do different things, maybe some guests. So you guys are officially our first guest ever on this show. So
Yeah.
it's pretty dope.
Right,
Welcome. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Thank you for taking the time.
Absolutely. My name is Bryce. I'm a recent addition to Comix Kings. I didn't
Bullshit. You've been here for almost a
found
year.
it or anything. Well, okay.
I was gonna say you've been there as long as I've been
in the
watching.
grand scheme of things, I'm closing in on a year with them. I do a show with Brandon every week called Weekly Wrap Up. Basically, we review the week's comics and basically get you guys ready for the next week. And yeah, I've been going at that for closing in on a year now. It's been a blast. And
April.
yeah, April will be a year.
Almost there.
Thank you guys for having us on today.
Yeah, for
Right
sure.
on,
I actually
man.
have a question too. Do you guys get in person when you do these videos? Because I haven't seen how you kind of set up your videos.
Okay. Anyway, so you do it through StreamYard, so it's pretty easy. We've only met in person one time actually, so and that was one of the better days of the year of 2021 rather.
Yeah, because you're I'm in the state of West Virginia and Brandon is in Maryland. So
Oh, okay.
in order to meet in person every week, that would take about a 6-hour drive.
Yeah.
Yeesh.
Brandon, I love you, man, but I am not willing to do that.
I've offered
Yo.
to drive 6 hours. You're like, no, I got homework, and I was like,
I mean, pretty much. Yeah, it's pretty much the everyday excuse.
Yo, we're all 40 minutes away from each other, and we can't even get the time to all get together.
Exactly.
So we get it.
We
Now we
live
have-
well within driving distance of each other, and we have never done an in-person
We
episode.
literally
So-
have no excuse now.
I mean, Brandon and I were brothers, and we still see each other like once every 2 weeks. So
Yeah. So we know how it is.
Next episode, Mike, I'm driving up to your place.
All right, for sure.
Well, all right, man. Well, speaking of questions, I have a couple of questions that I usually like to ask people, like when we get to the subject of talking comics and everything, which is this is the both of you answering that whatever order you want. How did you guys get into comics? Like, have you just been like last few years? Has it been like your whole life? Like how would you explain it?
Yeah, that was one of my questions as well.
go ahead, Bryce.
oh, you want me to go ahead? Okay, so my experience with getting into comics is somewhat twofold because I was first exposed to them when I was like 10 years old. I was a big fan of the show, The Big Bang Theory, which was on at the time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I love that show.
A comic book store was heavily featured in there. I thought it
Yeah.
was the coolest thing ever, but
Yeah.
I didn't know we had one in my area. Turns out we did, which came in handy later on, but I ended up going to a shop about 2 hours down the road from me when I had a doctor's appointment there. Got a stack of like 13 comics, and that was like my entire collection for like 7 years.
Oh, wow.
Here's why.
You
Wasn't really into comics per se, but they always kind of stayed in the back of my mind. And then
Yeah.
decided I wanted to get back into it after I graduated high school because I played sports the entire time and I had to have something to do with that time now that I graduated. So decided to see if there was a shop near me. There was. Started going there, started buying new books, weekly books, back issues, trade paperbacks, and haven't looked back since.
Hell yeah. Do you
Right
get a
on.
chance to remember what any of those early first comics you got were?
I can actually tell you a good bit. There was
Wasn't like Flashpoint your first book?
a random issue of Batman. I think it was like part 19 of Nightfall. Like I was digging in the back issue bins at like 10 years old. So it's like a random issue of Nightfall.
Nice.
Issue of Captain America from the 70s.
Okay. Yeah.
Like an Eric Larson Spider-Man.
Nice.
Garbage.
A bunch of Flash, a bunch of Green Man. Got back into it later on. I got back into it with Flash. So
Nice. So a little bit of everything. That's cool.
a little bit of everything. A couple
yeah.
Supermans.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, that's dope. That's kind of how I got started too, just random issues. Like
Yeah.
grab
Yeah,
these.
Exactly.
Get in
Like,
there.
I had no perception of like weekly comics at that time. I was just like, I was like, comic books just exist. Like they just happen to be there. Like there's and like whatever's there, that's what exists at the time.
And none of them were like parts of the same story. And so
Yeah.
the first comic I ever read was that Nightfall Batman issue. I think it was like part 19, and it was the only one I had. And so I jumped into it wondering like, who's this John Paul Valley dude? And Tim Drake. I'm like, I don't know these people.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
continued, and I'm like, well, I'm screwed.
Yeah. All right. Well, what about you, Brandon?
So I was a big Star Wars fan growing up. That was really my big introduction. I didn't really do anything else because I had a strict relationship with Star Wars. It was kind of like I was dating Star Wars, and like my childhood brain is like, don't cheat on Natalie Portman. and so I went to the comic book store with my grandmother because there was a shop there. However, we took our dogs to the vet and shit. So first thing that I pulled was a Knights of the Old Republic Dark Horse Star Wars book. I ended up getting it signed like years later. You know, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. And we don't talk about Star Wars enough on the channel, and that's so bizarre because Bryce and I are huge Star Wars fans. And it's like,
Yeah.
about that, I'm like, we don't talk about Star Wars. We just don't. It's like an unspoken love. Whenever Star Wars comes
the
up,
line's killing it right now too.
yeah. Yeah, like when we get to talk Star Wars on the channel, like we both get all giddy and stuff, and it's like, we should do this more. We just don't. Like, it's terrible. It's utterly terrible, and I'm ashamed of it.
I think it's just because like we're like such big Star Wars fans. Like we've talked about it so much before. Like
it's like a casual
like,
conversation
all right, like,
at this point. Not
like we've had this conversation. Like
it's almost like I'll hit him up, just talk Star Wars. It's like, yo, how's your name about Star Wars? Okay, fine, whatever. But on a podcast, it's like everything but Star Wars. It's so weird. It's so weird that way. But anyway, I went to the con with the person I co-founded Comix Kings with, who's no longer part of the brand, unfortunately, to pursue his music career. But he took me to my first con, and I started going through the back issue bin, the dollar bins. I pulled some Daredevils, is my favorite. For some reason, I have a distinct memory of pulling a MODOK book by Christopher Yost.
Oh wow!
Okay. Oh yeah.
But no one tell MODOK this. Like, keep that here because I don't want MODOK to like get a big head about it if he's listening.
Hell yeah!
I picked some Iron Man, some Venom, some Spider-Man, of course, like X-Men. I picked up probably like an issue of almost every character I was familiar with. It was weird because everyone in my family did not grow up with like Marvel, Batman, DC, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, like, to me, this is all new. Like, I lived vicariously through like a lot of people growing up with all this stuff, right?
Okay, yeah.
With like even like with the cartoons, you know, like I was happy with Star Wars: The Clone Wars, like, and that came out every Friday night. I know y'all remember. If y'all don't remember that those Friday nights of Star Wars: The Clone Wars came out, you did your childhood wrong. If you were there.
You're talking about like the animated series, right? Like the early.
Yeah. Bryce, I know you did your childhood wrong. That's why I pointed it at you. But anyway.
I didn't watch Harry Potter growing up. Didn't watch the Clone Wars.
I can't speak for Mike and Devin, but me and other Brandon are huge Harry Potter fans.
I'm a huge Potterhead, man.
like
Emma Watson is
Rings
wifey.
Like
Lord of the Rings
we went to a Harry Potter trivia night one time, And like I was killing it, bro. Like I was getting all the questions right, so much so that they had to change the whole like theme of the freak trivia night.
Brandon,
like,
I'm gonna take you up on that
away
after
from
the
it.
show. I'm gonna take you up on that trivia. We'll go. Let's go a few rounds. I'm gonna put
Yeah.
I don't know.
I ain't
One
scared.
of the Brandons, man.
all right, bro. All
Brandon
we'll
knows his
figure that
shit.
out then.
On another level.
I got money on
Oh,
Brandon.
shit.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I got money on Brandon.
That's all.
safe. That's safe money.
And that's
Yep.
what I think is so cool. Just on a side note, is that seems to be like the big kind of three franchises or properties, I guess, when it comes to sort of like fandom is either comics, whether it's Marvel, DC, you got Harry Potter, and then Star Wars. And I think
Star Wars really drove the movie industry and like completely changed the game a lot. I mean, it got a lot of inspiration, but from Dune, but like Star Wars just completely took it to another level. Like look at A New Hope and look at the Dune movie from the time, right? You were even like at Alien. Like Star Wars kicked off sci-fi.
Right.
You can say Dune all you want, but at the end of the day, it's Star Wars. Harry Potter got modern people, like modern kids, like today's kids, like 20 what century are we in? 21st century?
Yeah.
Those kind of like people growing up in that era into books, like that put a lot of people back into reading, which is something that we've lost today. That's why like it's harder to find people in a comic books. It's not speculating on what the next freaking $2,000 book is. Next Miles Morales, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess like I started in that dollar bin, so then I started picking up my weekly pull. I started reading some trades, reading online. I actually read a lot of Silver and Bronze Age while I was reading my moderns and catching up. So, and this is like going on 6 years now. So, I've read a pretty good bit, enough to do the show and do the best that I can with Bryce and our other co-hosts as well.
Nice. That actually, if you don't mind, that leads me to a question that I had. What I guess led you guys to making the decision from just being, just diehard fans to becoming content creators and making a YouTube channel?
For me, it was me and my friend, and we were just talking about it for a while, and it's like, okay, let's greenlight it, and we started doing stuff with the IGTV. Because before the Biden-Trump election, or even like before the first Trump election, the IGTV platform was very good to us, Like you can create like IGTV videos and they get more reach, blah, blah, blah. But now like since elections and political stuff, Facebook, Instagram, they got to process what you're doing. So videos, they pay close attention to and they won't like circulate it for a while, man. You know how Instagram posts go, like you won't see anybody post for a very long time. They do, and you just miss it, right? So that's just due to their algorithm. So it wasn't really in our favor. I wanted to, especially like launching Creators Corner and Weekly Wrap Up, doing those two live. It wasn't always the most convenient. Especially like, obviously, like you can see, like, because when people go live on Instagram, the creator gets like notifies like, oh, there's thousands of followers. Obviously, that's good for us, right? But not as much for like the replay. IG to watch like too many shows like that, maybe like one or two, but like not, you don't live on IGTV. So I wanted to move it over to YouTube, and he did. He didn't want to move anything over to YouTube because algorithms are starting to hurt us. And you can just do more with your content. You can have longer videos, go more depth into conversations. So I really wanted to do that. He didn't, and then he dipped. And creating content has always kind of been an ambition. Just talking about it. Just think about the people you get to meet. Just through creating content. Now we have I see 4 new faces, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And I had a goal with where I wanted Comix Kings to be, and then I met Bryce and through a comic collecting club, and Bryce is more of a key collector when I first met him. He was reading probably 1 or 2 books, but then Bryce and I would talk because Bryce is really one of the only people I knew that was like my age that was into comic books. That was on the East Coast too, right? So I was like, yo, why don't you come on Weekly Wrap Up? We were talking about books. And we kind of had like different playlists at the time. Now it's like kind of more of the same. Mostly because like I'll buy everything. Like I'll buy I know I'm pulling like 25 books a week.
Yeah, easily.
Wow.
That was really my goal, and then getting more.
Thank God they're
creators
not
on the
all
show.
weekly.
Yeah, and then getting more creators on the show has always been a bigger ambition, kind of deep diving into trade and just like doing more with a lot of comic topics, you know, is a better space for YouTube. So that was really where my heart was.
Nice. Bryce, what about you? Did you have any sort of ambition to kind of break out into the digital sort of market with content, just being a fan, or?
Part of me wanted to at first, and then I really wanted to. I'd seen guys on YouTube and the whole like key collector and spec market, which is what I was first exposed to when I got into it. And so I found like a lot of enjoyment and thrill in that. And so I had a YouTube channel for a little bit of like that, but it got to a point where, you know, those same kind of videos over and over again, while they might still be fun for some people to make and, you know, still watch them sometimes, they have a lot of enthusiasm in their content. It just wasn't for me anymore. And then when I graduated, I decided I was going to go to school for mechanical engineering, which is a very, very time consuming degree path.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of backed away from everything for a little bit. And so I had that I still kind of had that in the back of my mind and knew I kind of wanted to get back to it eventually, but I didn't think I would like be able to commit to it until I graduated college.
Right.
But then Brandon came to me about, you know, doing this weekly wrap-up show, which is something I had watched of theirs a little bit over on IGTV. And he was like, hey, you know, you want to kind of revamp this, like this other guy is no longer with us. And, you know, we got a spot if you want it. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, sure.
I didn't say I had a spot. I said, yo, let's do this. Like,
okay, yeah,
you are the spot.
I didn't say I had a spot available. I said I don't want anyone else. I said it.
He really, and I was like, well, you know, if you put it like that, I can't really say no. And if it's a once a week show, that's a commitment I can make right now.
Yeah,
it's
definitely
tying it up here.
It was always like kind of it was more of a, hey Bryce, you know, we're already talking about books anyway, because like Bryce was starting to get more into books. He just wanted to read more, you know, and said, you know, because like buying key books, right, are pretty expensive, almost as much, right? You can buy like probably on the off chance, let's say 10 like $3-4 issues, now $4, right, for the price of like one key. So it's almost like, what do you want more? And I think Bryce was starting to realize that, and at the end of the day, weekly wrap up is supposed to be growing the community and talking about books that we're enjoying, books that we've picked up, and overall like just reviewing them, discuss them, and we'll get like some fun stuff too. You know, I always love doing the fun stuff because it keeps the energy going. And and Bryce, I love Bryce to death. You know, so I said, you know what, let's give it 3 episodes. I mean, if you don't like it after 3 episodes, he was like,
yeah.
And he hasn't turned in his resignation yet. So
honestly, too, one thing I will say, it was very timely too, because the whole key collecting and back issue market just kind of exploded when the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
And everything became expensive. And so it more or less became out of necessity. It was either adjust my collecting to fit my budget or stop altogether. And I knew I didn't want to stop altogether.
Yeah.
And so honestly, it was just kind of the perfect storm to give me enough motivation to go in this other direction and give it a shot and see where the fun was here, when this other aspect of it no longer became to the point where it was no longer an option.
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy that you bring up the pandemic aspect of everything, because I didn't even think about how much how much of a surge there probably was in the market for just
a lot of people got laid off. A lot of people were just like making money working at home. People need help. Like if you look at why omnibus are so prominent nowadays, and why everything's getting reprinted, that's because of the pandemic. And you have other like people who are now preaching omnibus. Like the pandemic surge, like let's say for example, Gem Mint collectibles. Everyone knows who Gem Mint doing his omnibus haul, right? No stranger. His videos since the pandemic took an upshot, right?
Yeah.
So people like Gem, really, and then a few other people along the way. I can't I know Omar, right?
BJ Kicks,
BJ,
Omar,
DJ, Mad Dog.
Yeah,
Mad
yeah.
Dog.
But like that, those videos started surging because people were looking for reading material. That's why trade paperbacks were just going off LCS's shelf at the time. No one expected it, right? And then Key Comics, everyone, like I said earlier, everyone's trying to find that next Miles Morales. Everyone's trying to find that next big thing. The MCU during the pandemic. Look at where we are now in the MCU. We have more shows, more movies, more characters than ever.
Right. Yeah.
People who are just looking for that say, oh my gosh, I have it, you know. Obviously there's an uproar. Also the way that you can track digital sales because no one was meeting in person. Obviously, if a book sold for, let's say, $800, if you went to a con and overpaid for a book, that doesn't go on record. But you go on eBay, you overpay for a book. That is now the new status quo for that book.
You've cemented the legacy of sorts.
That's a new standard.
That's why they're so important. Like that's why when Carnage, like that first Carnage hit like $900 at one point in a 9.8.
Holy
and
cow.
it was like that set the limit on that book, right? Obviously that wasn't a book that didn't have upside, right? Carnage isn't a character that had upside, but like at one point Miles was hitting like record and then after record after record, and now it's like a 1,500, I think the last. I don't know. I don't really keep up with sales, but
Miles is still
key collecting is getting a little over the top, and again, that's a lot of that backtracking all these sales, trying to make sure you're paying. It's getting to the point where it's making like the enjoyment for those back issues diminishing because everyone's just trying to look for that price tag, and everyone's trying to put like a price tag on comics, and it's really what you make of it at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that actually brings up another thing that I was going to ask you guys, because like for me, like I've made it no secret, like I'm brand new to comics, like not even a year in of like actual collecting, and like for me, like right now, like there's like so much dope stuff that I'm reading, like so many series that like I'm excited about and enjoying, but that's like coming in fresh. Like for you guys, like being like seasoned collectors, like what do you think about like the current state of the comic book industry? Like I know you guys had a video not too long ago, or Brandon, I know you were in it, but how you said that how DC needs Jeff Johns back in comics. Like stuff like that. Like what do you think about the current state we're in?
My biggest concern for the industry are the cover artists, right? You have people like Tyler Kirkham, Clayton Crane, Mark Brooks, throw in J. Scott Campbell. The only big cover artist that's doing interiors now is Ricardo Federici. I know Miko Suyin did interiors for Joker Harley Criminal Sanity, but he didn't meet the deadline, so they had to replace him. With someone Jason Bowden. I don't know. I met him. So I don't remember his name, but I met him. So Clayton Crane has done interiors. All these guys have done interiors. The reason why they are where they are is because the money is where the cover art is, right? And that's, again, collectors want the rarity. People see the rarity of comics. So obviously as an artist where you barely get credited for your interiors, right? Because it all goes down to the author. You're going to move to covers, right?
Mm-hmm.
You do a cover, move on to the next. And I feel like comics have gone down because all these like great artists are now going exclusive. Look at Patrick Gleason. Marvel hired him, and he's only done freaking covers. He's only probably 4 issues of Amazing Spider-Man, if 5, 4 or 5, right? So what are you paying him all that money for if he's just drawing covers, right?
Yeah.
Now, like, think about if we got like our Clayton Crane back doing interiors, or Mark Brooks doing interiors. Think how much better books could be. And that's awesome.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And speaking of Gleason, like that is really a shame that like he's only done like such a like limited number of those Amazing Spider-Man books. Because like looking back, like when I look at those books, like those like the ones that he did are like some of my more favorite ones, just because of the art.
Yeah.
And like when he's not on it, sometimes it suffers. Like sometimes they get another good artist, but he's who I wish was just drawing Spider-Man right now.
Yeah.
I was just curious. Oh no, sorry. Go ahead, Bryce.
I would say the comic book industry right now if we're looking at what's getting talked about, what's like from a story standpoint, I would say we're seeing right now a shift from Marvel and DC, because it looks like Marvel and DC are kind of struggling to meet quota as far as
keeping their talent.
Revenue comes into play. I mean, why do you think they're releasing all these variant covers and renumberings and things like that? They have to use gimmicks to sell. And I love Marvel and DC, so I hate to say that, but one thing we don't see that in is creator-owned titles. And I really think that is where a lot of fans are going to, and a lot of fans are shifting towards. Now, right. Marvel and DC are always going to have an audience. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I do think that we could see a day pretty soon where creator-owned titles are the rage, essentially.
Oh, I agree with you, right? What writers do nowadays. When you look at every single writer in the book, right? Who's hot right now? James Tynion, Scott Snyder was hot, Tom King, who just released a Substack, Grant Morrison, who retired from DC, and they're doing indie now, right?
Hickman's Substack.
Chip Zdarsky with Stillwater Newburn. Hickman is doing indies now, or he's been doing indies for a minute now. But Jeff Johns, Peter Tomasi. But like, look at all these writers, right? They get their fan base in the big two, and then they dip, right? Because they made their money. They're gonna make more money doing their creator run. Why? Because we're in an age now where these movies are getting optioned. Right? Ronnie Barnes barely got a fan base, and Philadelphia now's getting an option, and he's a huge writer. Donny Cates, prime example. Donny Cates, right? If God Country came out now, right after the whole Venom surge, everyone would be so high on that book.
Especially after
that too,
especially after Thor.
Especially after Thor and Venom, So
well, I mean Venom, yeah.
It's kind of crazy, I think a lot of people now are treating comics more as collectibles than actual like stories, right? Everyone wants that latest issue. And from my side of things, I think that's why Marvel has to do these gimmicks, is to like kind of maintain that readership, but then that revenue doesn't ever transfer to their creative talent. So what we need in comics right now is to find a way for Marvel and DC to keep that writer-artist pairing, right? So you can have like a writer like Brubaker and Epting doing Captain America, right?
Yeah.
When was the last time we saw a book with the mainstay writer and artist? Probably Josh Williamson / Howard Porter. I mean, we have a Saad Ribic now with Eternals, and Kieran Gillen hasn't missed an issue. We have Humberto Ramos and Scotty Young with Change Academy. So we need to get more. We need to get back to them because, again, those are two of Marvel's headlining titles. Whether you like Eternals or not, it's a solid book, right? And everyone's sleeping on it. I'm telling you that right now. Everybody's sleeping on Eternals. Everybody's sleeping on Change Academy as stories, right? You want to look at it as a spec issue? I can't help you, right? I hate to say that. And I don't think anyone here is of that. But we need to find a way to cut back on, shops are required to order 25 so they can make up their money. They can have all these issues sitting in the dollar bins. So if you're paying more for a modern issue, you're doing it wrong because that's not the case. They're going to be in dollar bins. Everyone's right. Shops, if they're expecting a title to hit big, right, they're going to order for that variant cover because some sucker's going to buy it and they're going to make their money to where they don't have to sell every issue.
One thing I'll add too, and I'll just grab a visual here. I think these things are going to take over.
Oh yeah.
Collected editions.
They're
they're more cost effective. You can binge it.
Yeah.
It's like the streaming service of
exactly.
You have to wait for a new episode or a new issue. You get
it's a more bang for your buck.
An entire season.
Yeah. I like it's so crazy because like I don't know if you guys remember, but like a while back, like around Christmas, I put in the K Squad chat that like I was seriously considering just switching to collected editions only.
Oh yeah, I told you.
And like I was like this close to doing it, man, but like it seemed like the dude who owns my LCS, his ears were burning. He like the next time I went in, like the very next time, he was like, "Hey man, I just want to let you know, like we appreciate like you coming here for your books and everything like that. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna bump you up from 10% to a 20% discount." And I was like, "Shit! Well, now I can't stop. Now I can't stop."
Well, plus
so
you get
he knew it.
You get titles every now and then that make you want to stay in the game. Like me and Brandon talked about on the show Monday. I probably went on a 2 or 3 minute just gushing about Action Comics. I couldn't imagine waiting, sometimes 8 months for that book, because I can barely wait a month for it.
It is really good right now.
This is how you do it right, guys. This is how you do it right. You buy all the issues, then you go buy them back. You go back and buy the trade. That's what I do.
Then you go back and buy the deluxe hardcover, and then
and then I trade my trades, and then I trade.
And I was gonna say, then you get the Omni when it comes out. Then you get the absolute
budget
edition.
for this.
How do I
find a way. You find a way.
I used to key collect, so sometimes the hobby funds for itself. Like I'm still sitting on a Fantastic Four 94, so when the Agatha show gets going, we get some more into that. I'll sell that.
The amount of X-Men I'm sitting on right now.
Yeah. Like I had a Daredevil 1 that I sold. So it was like I was sitting pretty for a few months.
Yeah. That
what's your most prized possession?
Most prized possession?
Yeah.
What the fuck are you gonna ask me that? I'm kidding.
The audacity.
Oh,
wow. Holy cow.
Woo!
That
the
awesome.
amount of minimum wage paychecks a year or so ago that I saved up to be able to get this. That's the Reverse Flash and I said a little bit ago, the Flash is what got me into this whole thing in the first place.
Okay.
Flash Rebirth by Jeff Johns and Ethan Van Sciver was the title to really show me what comics were capable of, and the Reverse Flash is the main villain of that, and so he just instantly became a favorite. And so that, I would consider selling just about, there are a few exceptions, but just about every back issue that I own. But I would still hold on to probably that one as a last resort out of everything I have right now.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah,
that's
I'm
so
a fan of
cool.
Flash as well.
Are we talking about key issues, or can it be anything? Because I have
anything.
I have signed books that I could pull out. I could pull out my first Nightwing, my first Deathstroke was signed. But
oh yeah, signed books, absolutely, yeah.
I'm gonna go with this baby. So this is all original art.
Oh wow.
Ooh.
So here, I'm gonna hold it up. It's all original art. So you got Mitch Gerrard's up. Okay, let me do it this way. You got Mitch Gerrard's up here. You got Lee Weeks did Alfred, Becky Cloonan. Did what the fuck is that guy's name? Two-Face. Yeah, that bozo. Charlie Quinn by Jimmy Palmiotti, Klaus Janson, Batman. That's Amanda Connor, and then Tim Sale over here from Long Halloween. And then flip to the back, got Cliff Chang and John Beatty.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Dope. That actually leads into a question that I had for you guys as well.
Not my favorite character.
As far as comic books go, just the comics, not the movies, none of that shit. Do you prefer the stories of DC or Marvel better?
Marvel.
Marvel. All right. Well, because you both just use DC books as your
yeah.
So that's why I'm like,
yo, this is once in a list. Nobody else has this. If anyone can pull out this,
I'm a DC guy. With the exception,
I'm a DC. That's why I was asking.
Okay. With the exception of a few Marvel characters like Daredevil and Spider-Man, I would probably put in my top 5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But the rest of them, probably the rest of the top 7 or so are DC, character wise and story wise. My favorite run of all time in the big 2 is probably a Marvel run, and it's Daredevil by Brian Michael Bendis.
Read Frank Miller's Daredevil.
I'm going to.
I gotta read all of Daredevil.
That's a Frank Miller's classic for sure.
I gotta look at
Frank
Daredevil.
Miller's Daredevil's whatever. Frank Miller's Daredevil was literally what kept me in comics.
Just looking back there, Kingdom Come, Crisis on Infinite Earths, The New Teen Titans by Wolfman and Perez. Of course, and Brandon's gonna hate that I bring this up with all these other stories, but I'm going to anyway. Flashpoint is an all-time favorite of mine.
Mm-hmm.
You just
Blackest Night.
You just
Long
named all of
Halloween.
DC's highest sellers. If Batman wasn't there, these would all be DC's highest sellers. Come on.
But Batman is there.
There's a reason for that.
Batman is their book. Batman is their book.
Would you say Batman carries?
Batman carries, yeah.
He does.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There's a reason for that.
Oh my God.
I read Kingdom Come for the first time last week. And after I finished it, like I probably sat there just with this like blank expression on my face, just kind of like what did I just read?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And very rarely with a Marvel series or run do I have this sort of reaction to it, but with something
Read
like
Ultimate Spider-Man.
Crisis, it is on the list. It is on the list.
Please. Yes.
Freaking love
Jason
Ultimate
Aaron's
Spider-Man.
store.
But with a lot of DC stories, I just find myself almost like transcending a lot of times, just or like ascending. I feel like
Bryce. So I was in that same boat when I was like, oh my God, I love DC. DC's great. DC's great. There got to a point where I was like, we're not going anywhere, right? This is the best. Like this DC suffers from that glass ceiling because nothing will ever be better than a Batman book. And I'm sorry. Like, they have Crisis on Infinite Earths. Okay, now we have Court of Owls. And we're going to have more Court of Owls books in Britain than we will Crisis on Infinite Earths. Because that was the book that got us out of bankruptcy. That's actually a true fact. But
are you talking about sales-wise or quality-wise, though?
Both.
Both?
I'm
You're trying to tell me that Court of Owls is better than the Judas Contract?
No, not that part.
Stories like that. Books like that.
Not the Judas Contract, but Crisis on
Or
Infinite Earths.
Kingdom
Hell yeah, I'll
Come,
take that any day.
or
Yes.
Infinite Crisis?
Oh man.
Yes. Wait, whoa.
Blackest
yes.
Night.
No. Blackest Night's like one of my favorites. No.
Don't worry, Bryce. I'm with you.
Um,
I've read DC
Batman
comics that have
Batman
transcended
carries,
my life
huh?
as well.
Yeah, no, they transcend, but like you get to a limit. Marvel, there's like no limit. Like, I'm sorry. Like, there's so much more to Marvel. I'm sorry.
Well, there is. There's as far as character wise, but as far as like, I don't know. It's like quality versus quantity. Like I think the quality of stories that DC puts out sometimes is like so mind blowing. Like when I read a story, I'm like, holy shit! Like it's like hit me like on a different level. And then I read DC, and it's just like people fighting and people flying around, which is cool. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm a huge fan of like X-Men and Spider-Man and shit. But it's like it hits harder with like the darker like Batman comics, for example. Like you're saying,
have you read Messiah Complex? Or Rise and Fall of Shi'ar? Those are two great modern X-Men titles.
I'll have to. I'm a huge fan of
X-Men by Grant Morrison. Yo, that shit hit different. Imagine Scott cheating on Jean with Emma Frost and Jean and Emma having a mind war.
Oh God, no!
Piggybacking off a new X-Men, Astonishing X-Men too is just like
Bryce.
That story. And I hate the fact to say that I like something by Joss Whedon because he's a terrible person.
Come on.
It's all right. I love Warren Ellis's work.
He gets.
like you got to separate the art from the artist in that situation because
unless their name is Ethan
Van
Sciver.
I love Ethan Van Sciver's art though.
He's a terrible person. He's the worst.
I love Ethan Van Sciver's art.
Cameron Stewart is another one where sorry.
See, that's I don't know. I can usually because Jeff Johns is even controversial right now. Jeff Johns is probably
really
he's the writer that
you
got
can
me.
Never cancel Jeff Johns. I'm sorry. If the day that cancel culture cancels Jeff Johns without any evidence, that is the day where comics will never be anything more than just for nerds.
Damn. Malone, I actually had a question for you. In light of your most recent comic book novice episode. Because you did have a lot of DC titles on your top 5 list. Not to put you on the spot, would you say that you're leaning a little more towards like DC has them stories?
Just the comics. Not talking
about
well,
comics goes.
What movies?
In the beginning, I definitely like I still remember like the first time you ever took me to Mile High, Frank. And I don't know if you remember, but I walked out of there with like the first like 20 issues of that New Avengers run.
Yeah.
And like that's all I had really. Like so all I had experience with was Marvel.
That's fine.
And like I knew DC like had like Batman and Flash and Justice League and all that, but I never really like read any of it. But nowadays, now that I'm like getting like a weekly pull list, I'm reading all these different books.
Yeah.
The list is definitely skewed more towards DC.
Oh, okay.
It's still like a good mix of both, and like some indie books as well. But like as far as like what like the books that I get like really excited for right now, most of them are DC books. Like Dark Knights of Steel, that's like my favorite series that is coming out right now. DC vs. Vampires, I love. The main Batman title right now is amazing. Detective Comics, even though it's coming out every week, like I think that's why I like more DC now, just because like all the stuff that I really get excited for from Marvel is coming out like every week or every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Except for like a couple of like titles like Black Panther and stuff like that. Like I get really excited for that book, and I'll wait of a month just to like like this the whole time. Like, is it that day yet?
It's today.
Okay. I'm easy.
Now, Mike, you keep whenever you ask the question, I couldn't help but notice you keep saying like just the comics. Like,
I say that because everyone's gonna say Marvel if we talk about the movies.
I'll say Marvel anyway.
That's what I was thinking. But I'm actually gonna throw you for a loop here. My favorite comic book, like show and movie of last year, neither of them were Marvel.
Mine
too. What's your favorite superhero movie?
Mute him.
Invincible?
My favorite superhero movie of last year was The Suicide Squad.
I told you to mute him.
Oh, that's dope.
No Way Home was right there, but The Suicide Squad was just different enough.
Oh my! Blasphemy!
The Suicide Squad was just different enough for me to where. Like,
it has been a great
No Way Home win. No Way Home win.
Thanks for
you're grounded.
Taking the time. We appreciate it.
All right, Bryce.
That's crazy.
I like it. I like it.
All right, let him
talk. I'm about to make y'all even madder. If we combine movies and shows, No Way Home's number 3.
What?
Out of what?
What are you talking about? What is
1 and 2?
No Way Home's number 3. Suicide Squad's number 2.
Wow.
And Invincible was number 1.
Oh,
okay.
Has anyone ever seen My Cousin Vinny?
Invincibles.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everyone's seen My Cousin Vinny, right?
Yeah.
Bryce, you on drugs, Mr. Gambini?
No, but I agree.
That's a hot take if I've ever heard one.
Some of my favorite comic book movies, like on my top list, are DC. Like Dark Knight, The Joker.
Okay, Nightwing, I will give you that. I'll give you all Nightwing.
There's so much. V for Vendetta. Those are all DC.
We're talking movies at this point.
Yeah, like we're just talking all movies now. Like, yeah, DC's got some dope classics, but like if you're talking like the DCEU and the MCU, like there's no way to compare those two.
There are two.
It's like comparing high speed internet to a fucking hamster on a wheel.
There are probably 3 gems from the DCEU. Four gems out of the whole DCU that I will go back and rewatch constantly. Compared to the MCU, it's nothing.
For me, it's just really only Man of Steel. Like
I knew I liked you, Bryce.
That I really enjoyed.
That's all I'm gonna say.
I didn't like Man of Steel.
What'd you say, Mike?
I said I knew I liked you.
Oh yeah, no, like Man of Steel, Wonder Woman, Shazam, and Suicide Squad are really.
Dude, I gotta say,
Shazam was good.
Shazam is honestly one of my favorite of the DCU.
Shazam was so fun, man. Shazam was
fantastic.
Yeah, it was good.
It was a simple story. It was fun. It was shot well.
Yeah, it knew what it was.
Refreshing.
It was quippy. I think that was like the best. It was quippy. The villain was lame as shit. Like you couldn't come up with a lame.
It's like a Saturday morning cartoon.
7 Deadly Sins.
I'm ready for the second one. Honestly, I'm excited about.
Me too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's all we need is more Darla in our life.
Dude, Black Adam though, man, that shit had me fucked up.
I heard he was just Adam, and then I heard he was Shazam, and then now we're just not using him anymore.
Shazam? That's Shazam. The one I want. That's the title I want.
Take out Infinite Frontier #1, right? The Bendis story, and then look at his first issue with Justice League, and it's just like we've heard 4 different Shazam, like Black Adam names, and none of them are Black Adam. It's like
Yeah.
No, stop.
And the
Stop.
movie's even called Black
My
Adam.
voice is
It's
like cracked this whole stream.
That actually, that while we're on the topic, that actually brings me to a question I had. Because we got the debut of Moon Knight series coming out soon. I was just curious, out of everybody here, is there any either character or property that you guys are looking forward to being adapted into a film or show that either we haven't seen yet, or if they have
Mutants and
done
Fantastic Four, X-Men and Fantastic Four, I'm the happiest person.
Yeah.
I need Silver Surfer. Obviously, we're getting Daredevil, but I already got Daredevil in the Netflix show. So I honestly I understand he's not necessary to the MCU because he's always kind of operated on his own. He's kind of like that one character that can just never collab with anyone else. You know? Like that's been the status quo for Daredevil. Come on, like, or maybe it's like
Rob
one
happens like
character.
3 feet outside of Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah,
Not my
like-
problem.
You had to be within driving distance to see Matt Murdock. It's like that's just you know?
Bro, you gotta.
Like, you know what's funny? Growing up, I was a huge, I mean, still am a huge Daredevil, Punisher fan, obviously. But I always loved when Daredevil and like the more street level, like Luke Cage. I always loved when they got involved in the bigger sort of
stories.
over
Read
the
New Avengers. You gotta read New Avengers, bro.
Oh yeah, no, I'm still working my way through.
That's
that
my
one.
jam right there. New
Luke
Avengers,
Cage, bro.
I have like the first. I'm trying to complete that run. Actually, I have the first 43 issues now.
Attaboy. That's what I like to hear. That's what I like to hear.
But
Man,
if I had to pick something that I was looking forward to, if it's something that
it could be something that they already put out but wasn't that great. Maybe they're bringing it back, or just something completely new.
Well, okay, so I've actually X-Men would have been one of my answers, but if I'm talking about like I'm gonna say one that hasn't even been announced yet. Like there's barely been any rumors, and then one that is happening this year. Rumor wise, got to be Nightwing.
Yeah,
there are rumors about Nightwing appearing in the Batgirl movie, and then him.
I've heard that.
Saying after that, no announcements yet. Don't even know if Batgirl started filming, but
I'm so worried about who they cast for Nightwing. I'm just like, please.
Yeah,
it's the guy from Maze Runner, right?
Yeah, Dylan O'Brien, allegedly.
I think you know who would have been a good one?
I think
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Dude, I was just about to say that. JGL is
I
my
think
dude.
he had a good thing with Brenton Thwaites, but he was in a terribly written show and they wasted him.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt, he's good looking. He's kind of slim. He's young. He's short. So, like, you know.
I think he's just getting a little
acrobatic.
Well,
Andrew Garfield would make a good Nightwing. I wouldn't mind seeing him.
He's getting kind of old too.
There's like, I think you named all three people that I would deem acceptable. I think freaking Dylan O'Brien, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and Andrew Garfield. That's my
Garfield
list.
would be a good. I think
just ask these three dudes. I suck at casting, so I'm not even.
I would have loved
anything out
Me
there.
too, but just
awful.
I would
the more you talk about it, the better you get at it. Just like with
Hey, listen, I did an X-Men fan cast with a buddy of mine a while back, and I said I wanted Rami Malek to play Nightcrawler, and I haven't been.
That actually would be kind of cool. I'd be on board with that.
That's tough.
But no, as far as stuff that's coming out this year, everybody's gonna say Doctor Strange. Everybody's gonna say Moon Knight. To me, Thor: Love and Thunder is the one I'm the most
Guardians 3, bro. Guardians 3.
Well, Guardians 3, but
that's going to be the last one of the chapter too. I think they're not going to make another Guardians after that.
That's because they won't renew James Gunn after this. They only brought him back for the movie. Yeah. That's why none of the cast like renew their contracts and everything. Like, I mean, I'm sure they'll still pop around, but like they're not going to be starring in anything.
Batista's
gonna kill Groot again.
Batista's out.
Calling it
well,
right
and
now.
that's a sleeper hit.
Batista's not a good actor. Batista's a terrible actor.
While talking about Guardians,
I'm a stickler for
he was good in
man.
Dune. He was really good in Dune.
He's good in Dune, but he always plays like an emotionless brute, like because he can't do anything else. He's played the same exact role his entire life. It's just James Gunn knows how to use him.
I think he's
Rock did that for like the first 10 years of his career.
Yeah, so did yeah. So
look at John Cena now, fucking Peacemaker and shit.
Oh yeah.
You know that
fuck with Peacemaker, bro.
They're all going on that.
In the intro.
Which granted, they're just performing what's being written for them and whatnot. But I do think Batista has good comedic timing for sure.
One thing I'll
He's
say to you
invisible.
that you're missing. You talk about Guardians 3, but you can't gloss over Love and Thunder because that is what's bringing Christian Bale to you
Oh, that's
Yeah,
right.
true that.
as Gore the God
True
Butcher.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
That's gonna be exciting.
Oh yeah, more Roxxon Corporation. Think that was a big part.
Oh yeah, Roxxon. I mean, that's
They've been real prevalent in like the Disney Plus shows. Like they pop up quite a bit.
Roxxon?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just thinking
No
Spider-Man.
spoilers,
Miles
please. I
Morales.
haven't seen any.
Well, you know that Roxanne exists.
Mhm.
Yeah, come on now, that's a spoiler from every movie.
Are they?
That's a spoiler from the first Iron Man.
Okay.
spoiler for the first Iron Man.
Yeah, 20-year spoilers coming in hot.
What about Mike and
I
Brandon?
said, "What's up?" Next time you go into the Rock.
Well, we're
let's
getting
see,
the
let's-
person I want, which
Moon
is
Knight?
Moon Knight.
Moon
Like
Knight.
I've been wanting him forever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Oscar Isaac too.
Yeah, that's a great casting, if
Yeah.
you ask me. Like it's a like I really like he's as far as like the sequels Star Wars goes, he was like one of the parts that like I enjoyed. Like him and John Boyega, like even though some people don't like really like give his performance a lot of shit in those movies, like I still enjoyed those two the most, like out of like the whole cast.
Yeah.
They
Disney
so
Disney should just change their logo at this point from or not like their mascot from Mickey Mouse to Oscar Isaac. Like
No,
they
no, that's what DreamWorks should do if they ever like came over to Disney. You know.
they completely underutilized his abilities in Apocalypse. Like I was looking forward to that movie so much, and the fact that we just got and then the casting of Oscar Isaac, and then for them to just kind of make him like a sort of like shallow sort of villain, and then they kill him off in the end is just like they just didn't give him. They really didn't use his versatility enough, in my
They
opinion.
used him as Poe Dameron. He was like the best part of that movie.
Yeah.
The whole
the
sequel.
design of Apocalypse sucked too. Looked like a meth head
Yeah,
Teletubby.
can we not talk about Apocalypse?
Looked like Ivan Ooze.
Yeah, are we
you
at
guys
that
want to talk
that
Green
point?
Lantern movie next? Jeez.
Hey, I love that
I'm sorry,
movie.
what movie? What movie?
That movie owes me 2.5 hours of my life back.
I only love that
Hey,
movie
know what
because
you're
of
talking about.
Phoenix.
Hey,
Dark
hey,
Phoenix.
You guys are trying to get worked
I
up.
watch it as a guilty pleasure though because I liked the Cyclops that they introduced in that movie. And then, of course,
No, Cyclops sucks.
I actually fucks with those movies.
they retconned it by Deadpool going back and shooting Ryan Reynolds in the head. So
Cyclops sucks.
It
I don't
never
wanna hear anymore.
happened.
Hey.
It never happened.
Oh,
What the hell?
we went down.
what about
But
I thought you, like,
hold on, I think,
Lobby, please.
Brandon
the,
didn't do it. Yeah.
The one that I'm most excited for is like not even something like that has been casted or anything like that, but like I am most excited for the X-Men to pop up into the MCU. Like we've got all the we got the cosmic stuff, we got the mystic stuff. I'm missing some mutant action in my movies. I want to see freaking Jean Grey, like in the continuity. Like I know we got the James McAvoys and all those, but like I want like a long-standing like cast of characters to like
what he
just
means
enjoy.
is he's really looking forward to Emma Frost because he likes.
Exactly that. I'm looking forward to Rogue. Is who I'm looking forward to.
Oh, I love Rogue.
That's kinky.
Rogue's
that.
fantastic.
Yeah, into that
Yeah.
dark stuff.
if they do, I mean, obviously they are bringing X-Men into MCU, but if they do decide to sort of bring back Rogue early on, I do hope that they again get to utilize her a lot as far as her abilities, because in the
Watch the X-Men animated.
yeah, no, I love that, and that's what I'm talking about. Like I would love to see that sort of carried over to live action.
Yeah.
In the
Hey, sugar.
movies, yeah, she was very just kind of like, she wasn't flying around, she didn't have super strength, and Rogue, carries that team a lot in the comics and the animated series, and like she's a heavy hitter.
Well, she's actually my favorite X-Men besides one person, and that's Gambit. They're kind of like a duo though. So
Mon ami?
Gambit and Rogue are my favorite X-Men, without a
Nice.
Yeah, let's go
Rogue's
around.
Rogue's
Name your
probably
favorite
number three.
X-Men.
doubt.
Wait. What, Devin? Did you have something you were?
Oh,
looking
yeah.
forward to?
Yes, I am looking forward to Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse Part 1.
Oh
yeah.
Yeah, that would be dope.
Miguel O'Hara is my favorite Spider-Man besides Peter Parker.
Okay.
So like seeing him come to the big screen, like ask Malone
Mhm.
after the Spider-Verse post-credit scene from the first
Oh, yeah.
movie. I
And
was like, oh my gosh! I predicted it too. I was like, they're gonna show Miguel watch.
well, and you know
He
what's
puts on the wristwatch. He's got his ice,
Yeah.
and he's like, all right, let's go point at a different Spider-Man in a different
Do
universe.
the meme, yeah.
well, and what's crazy about that is Oscar Isaac again voiced.
Yep,
Miguel
Oscar
O'Hara.
Isaac. My boy.
He's freaking.
Oscar Isaac.
He's in everything, man.
He's like, I'm
Got
gonna
his hands in
get
so
there.
many
baby.
different
He's the
buckets
new
right
I'm
Kevin
now.
kind of,
Bacon,
I'm
man.
not gonna lie, I'm a little exhausted from kind of this whole Spider-Verse dilemma. Like, I think if you're ever gonna accomplish that, it's no good unless they actually get their own stuff.
Mm,
Kind of
like,
thing. Like,
like, the
Okay.
individual
like Miles, like there's no reason why like Miles shouldn't be like live action at this point. You know,
Yeah.
I feel like we're at a
Yeah.
point
Yeah.
where Spider-Man, Peter Parker is a mentor to him, you know, and even in the comics, I kind of find Peter Parker's age to be a little unsettling, right? Because for the longest time, right, him and MJ were married, and then they broke up because Joe Quesada just did not want to remarry them, right? And then MJ was gone for years, and it just kept Spider-Man in a certain age. So now they're back together, and Miles is like now catching up. Spider-Man should have had kids already and should be mentioning Miles, right? So it's like the comics are trying to separate the two by not bringing them together. The movies are trying to bring the same fan base for Peter Parker into Miles Morales, but in reality, Miles Morales should be aimed at the next generation. You go to the same neighborhoods that like Miles grew up, the same types of neighborhoods, right? That's where you're gonna find a lot of different cultures, right?
Yeah.
Miles is Afro-Latino. You go back to even like the United States as a whole is a big melting pot. It is a melting pot, especially in New York, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you're not just seeing white people 24/7 like you did to Peter Parker. Peter
Yeah.
Parker, right, is supposed to relate to everybody. He does relate to everybody. To this day, he still goes through those struggles. Every Spider-Man comic book, even when he puts on the suit, he's still Peter Parker.
Right.
Miles Morales, I feel like we're not doing enough with this character at this point. Like Marvel ain't promoting him
Yeah.
in the movies. He's always tethered to Peter Parker. And I'm just waiting for the day where we can separate Miles and really bring together, right? All these different cultures. Because that's what Black Panther did. That's what Captain Marvel, that's what Shang-Chi did. Those movies have done what like Batman has failed to do. But even like to today, Peter Parker. You know,
well, and I think we kind of spoke about this, Mike, Devin, and Malone, a few episodes back, just about kind of the overlying Spider-Man. Where do we go from here after No Way Home?
in a Miles TV series.
Well, and that's what I'm
Make
saying.
it a TV series. He don't need a movie. Make it a TV series. He don't need a movie.
Right. And I think too, like, I think maybe that's ultimately why they went with the ending that we got in No Way Home, is because maybe now that they can, it's sort of like, okay, now that Holland is like not necessarily done and over with, but it's like, okay, we kind of,
He's renewing his contract, but everyone knows him now.
right. And it's like, okay, we've kind of wrapped up that story to some degree. Now we can, if we want, let's do a Miles Morales live action. Let's do a Spider-Gwen live action. Let's give all these other iterations their own just desserts as far as a live action.
Well, even if you made it into a cartoon series, right, and then had a live action Miles movie, that would be better, right? Look at kids who grew up with the Teen Titans, Star Wars, the Clone Wars. Like those are memories that they hold on to. Ain't nobody growing up holding on to memories of Miles Morales yet because he ain't been around enough on the big screen.
Yeah.
He's been around as a character, but he, you know, like, and Tom Holland is such a slow burn right now because we just wrapped up his origin. Like they're renewing his contract. He's gonna be Spider-Man for the next 10 years, whether anyone likes it or not.
Right.
Whether
There's
he
no
likes it
room
or
for
not.
Miles in the MCU right now. And that's because they've just now started Peter Parker off at ground zero. They'll bring Miles in, but you're not gonna get that Peter Parker Miles relationship anymore.
I don't know. I would say
I haven't played the Miles Morales game, but is Peter Parker pretty central? Is Peter Parker like a main sort of force in that, or Devin? Or?
The way they do it is Peter Parker goes off to like he does a trip with MJ somewhere in gosh, I forget where it is. Wherever Silver Sable's from. And so basically Miles is left to babysit New York. So chaos ensues. I'm not gonna spoil anything for you, but crazy stuff happens, and Miles just has to sort of figure out how he takes the reins from Peter. And I feel like this game is sort of like, in the event that Peter does die, here's how he'd sort of get into that whole I am Spider-Man, the only Spider-Man sort
so
of.
He does get to sort of shine on his own outside of shadow. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
It's cool. It's crazy that we're like we like started talking about Miles Morales because but I don't know about you guys, but I've been seeing those ads for the what if Miles Morales was Captain America.
What?
Like that, like in the Marvel weeklies that have been coming out.
Yeah.
And I'm like kind of like I'm happy that he's like they're branching that character out just a little bit at least, like because like since I've been reading, all I've ever seen him in like that's ongoing now is his own title and like one issue of Amazing Spider-Man. Like I'm just glad that he's in other things that I'm like gonna be picking up.
He's a decently sizable part of Devil's Reign right now too.
Right.
Oh yeah. And Devil's Reign.
What's going on? He's in that god awful suit, but he's a decent.
Oh yeah, like I'm over that suit right already. Like
let's not forget, like Miles Morales, when he first like started out the Ultimate Spider-Man right after Peter died, not a lot of people liked him. Like they just sort of thought of him as a Peter Parker clone.
Yeah, even in the Marvel now, like when they introduce all those new characters, Sam Alexander, Kamala Khan, Amadeus Cho, everybody's saying fuck that, right? Everyone's saying fuck all these new characters taking our legacy guys. They can't live. A lot of older collectors are like, they can't live vicariously with each other. They can't live next to each other. They can't coexist. It's a bunch of bullshit, because now look where we are. All those people, right, who were disliking Miles, now love him to death because he's worth $1,500 in their pocket.
Yeah.
And I think Into the Spider-Verse
don't take any
has
of that
a lot
seriously.
to do with that.
Well, and to speak on what we were talking about, like with the No Way Home, I think it kind of built up for now anything's possible. And we kind of discussed this earlier in an earlier podcast, but it's like they've been having a plan. They've been on like planning ahead for so many years. So it's like Miles didn't fit anywhere in that. So they couldn't have put Miles anywhere in there because they would have had to make it all synchronize into this lovely kind of cocktail, which they've done. But now that it's like enter the like the multiverse is here, like anything can happen. They could start splitting timelines, have multiple Spider-Mans, and get away with it. Whereas before, fans might have taken it a certain way because it doesn't have that bigger build up to like the Thanos or to the big baddie. But now it's like now they can do anything. Now they can do one of one.
They've actually
DC does.
They've actually been kind of teasing Miles since before Into the Spider-Verse came out. Like obviously,
I got a nephew.
Then we had Aaron Davis.
And
I got a nephew in Brooklyn.
Did you ever see that deleted scene? Like at the end, like there's a deleted scene where he calls him and he's like, "Miles, I'm not gonna be able to make it, man." Like
he's like,
no, keep that in the movie, man.
Yeah. But yeah, like Mike said, like we wouldn't have been ready for that yet. Like it was just enough of a nod. But if they would have name dropped him, it would have probably been too soon when Homecoming came.
I agree.
Yeah. All right, guys. Yeah, like just before we get out of here, I want to just ask you guys one more question. Like how people have their comfort movies, like just movies they go back to time and time again, like just because they're classic to them personally. What is a run or like a specific story arc that you guys really like? Just that, like that's your comfort story. Like you know it, you love it, you've read it multiple times, like, but you love it just the same.
Frank Miller's Daredevil off the bat.
Nice.
See, for me, I would have to say, and this is going to sound really weird because
or Ultimate Spider-Man.
There's nothing remotely comfortable about the story itself, but I would probably say the Judas Contract.
I thought you were gonna say Invincible, bro.
No, Invincible. Okay, Invincible is my favorite comic series of all time, but I can't just go back to that anytime. Because it's a 144 issue run, and you don't get it.
Yeah, you need a nice,
so you finish
nice
those
and sweet.
Well, I mean, if you're looking for a specific issue, I mean, I know, like, I'm gonna do for an Invincible reread once, like, they start filming to the second season, but yeah, Frank Miller's Daredevil, I'll just go back, pull issues, Ultimate Spider-Man, like, there's certain issues that, like, when I'm in that mood, they'll just hit, you know what I mean? Y'all know what I mean.
You know what I mean.
But what about all you guys? What do y'all say?
Brandon, why don't you? I know maybe you might have a.
Well, for me, it's Batman Hush. Because that like I've said it multiple times before, but that's the arc that really got me, like that really like showed me. Because like when I first went back to my comic book store, I bought like 4 things. I bought the Batman Fierce Day Alpha. I bought the first issue of Death of Doctor Strange, and I bought another single issue. I can't really remember, but the last thing I bought was the trade paperback Batman Hush. And like I'd heard about it like on a couple other like channels, I think. But like I asked the guy like at the store, I was like, "Hey man, like, do I need to know anything else like for this to make sense? Like, can I just read this by itself?" And he was like, "Yeah, like if you read that, like that'll be like a good place to start Batman. Like that'll get you interested in other stuff." I was like, "All right, cool." Take it home, start reading it. Could not put it down. Like for that whole the whole night. Like I almost finished it in that one sitting. I was like, "Holy shit!"
That was an
like,
interesting story, but I have to say there are much better Batman stories.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that from multiple people. Like, if you go back like later on,
it's just
Jim Batman Hush
again.
It's
Jim Lee's art that really grabs you.
Yeah, that's I was gonna say, like, it's Jim Lee as an artist, like, definitely pushed that book forward for me because I was just like, damn, like this just looks amazing. Like the fight between Batman and Superman alone in that is just like some like
Dude,
I could see
Poison Ivy
that.
taking over Superman was probably my favorite part of that book.
Yeah, that it was just great. Like, and like I know like it's not
like that's
up,
a badass
bitch
right there.
in the pantheon of Batman stories, but like for me, that's one that I've read that I enjoyed the most.
What about you, Mike?
Me?
No, the other Mike.
Yeah, well, yeah, the other Mike.
It was kind of like broke up, so I didn't know if you said Mike. But for me, it would have to be Watchmen. It would have to be the complete story of Watchmen.
Nice.
I still to this day, that's like one of my favorite things. I've read it like multiple times. I've even seen the movie multiple times, and I think they did a good adaptation of that. But yeah, that's the one.
You're a Ravenclaw, I just
love that. And I went into it blind too. Like I went into Watchmen, just the story, the characters blind, and I was like, when I read the book or the comics, I was like, or that graphic novel, I was like, whoa, like this is some crazy shit.
Yeah.
So you're a Ravenclaw, right? Harry Potter house.
Yeah. I'm a Hufflepuff.
Oh, me too. But you said like Watchmen was like your comfort story. I was like, what is comforting about Watchmen? Oh, you're like a Ravenclaw. You like complicated stories.
Even though I've never seen Harry Potter, I know somehow that I'm a Ravenclaw.
I know that you're just
engineer. Yeah, you're a Ravenclaw.
well, ever since I was a kid, and this is one of the reasons why Batman and DC is so highly regarded in my mind, is because ever since I was a kid, I was into more darker psychological kind of stories that play on like human psychology and shit like that. So I was like,
Goblet of Fire is your movie.
Yeah, always like into shit like that. So that was like right like, I like the darker stories. I like the grittier kind of psychological points of views.
Half-Blood Prince is kind of gritty. Take out Horace Slughorn.
Oh man, you like psychological stuff. You must love Fight Club then, movie Fight Club.
Yeah, I love Fight Club.
That's a good one.
What about the other two you guys? What are your
Devin,
you got one off top?
Off the top of my head, I'd have to say Civil War.
Yes.
Mostly because every single action has a consequence, and the politics in that
That's
whole
phenomenal.
oh my gosh, freaking amazing. The conflict. My favorite arc in that story is Spider-Man's. I'm a Spider-Man fanatic.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, like everything he does, he faces a consequence for, and it's just beating on this character the whole time. And even when he does the right thing, it's still beating on this character. And
Well, he
even
was
the
getting
stuff
a
that
little
happens
bit
after the story.
at that point in comics. Tony was really getting this guy's career going, right? He was like kind of employing him, getting him going with the suits. Like he had the Iron Spider before Civil War, and that was more so a gift so that Spider-Man could do this because Tony's like, yo, I need you to do this. Like it was more of like a favor. So like leading up to Civil War, him and Spider-Man were always kind of that mentorship. That's like what Homecoming was kind of alluding to, is like that modern relationship between the two characters. So, Spider-Man just kind of got enough. He's like, yo, man, like what the like that's not cool. You kind of
This is wrong. We're putting people in a freaking different dimension over here.
Yeah. Now, Devin, I will say 2 moments from Civil War that really took that book to another level for me. Like
Punisher and Cap.
Punisher Cap was one of them, but then when Goliath got killed,
Goliath died. That was a turning point, bro.
That.
What about when
book to the stratosphere for me?
Yo, what about Namor coming in for Sue because he had a thing for Sue, right? And Sue was kind of like pissed off at Reed, so Namor kind of saw that as a moment to try to slide in.
Wow.
You guys just did a video not too long ago about Civil War, dude.
We did.
So
okay.
Make sure to go check that out. Yeah. I know my stuff.
Check that out.
Peter, what's your kind of comfort story? I know you
I was honestly, it's gonna be Spider-Man for me too, but
Ultimate.
You know what's funny? Because that did come up quite a bit in this discussion. It's kind of between Ultimate and then I don't know, Bryce or Brandon, if you guys are familiar with the run of Peter Parker Spider-Man from back in like late 90s.
Peter Parker Spider-Man, Peter David Innocenti.
Yeah.
on art. I got you. I have all the issues. I have all the issues of that.
Thank you. But yeah,
it just became a must read. So I'm gonna be on the
yeah, Spectacular. Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man,
Spectacular.
Right?
When I
started that like last week.
When I was growing up, that was sort of like the main. That's like when I started like being on a consistent like, okay, I'm gonna stick to this particular run of a Spider-Man, and I never finished it. I plan to, but yeah, that always just gives me good nostalgia.
Yeah. Spectacular Spider-Man ran during kind of when Michelini was doing his run, So like that was dope. That Amazing Spider-Man's cool too. If you guys ever do want to read Michelini's Spider-Man, that's where you see the rise of a lot of these guys' careers. Like you see McFarlane's first work in ASM, which he was doing other stuff. He was doing Hulk, right? But when you get put on Spider-Man, that really defines your career at that point. Mark Bagley, who is the best Spider-Man artist ever seen. If anyone wants to debate me, feel free because
Eric Larson, of course, because that's
Eric Larson's career. We spoke about him earlier. I'm not a fan of his, but I think Eric Larson is literally the offspring of Todd McFarlane. Like Todd McFarlane knows his own. Like at least Bagley was doing his own thing.
Actually, it's kind of funny. The more you bring up McFarlane, now I'm kind of like, you know what? Spawn is always kind of a classic for me as well.
I can't get into Spawn. I'm like,
really?
I have the compendium and I'm like looking to sell it at this point because like I can't get
I'll take that off of you, dude.
All right. How much? $40 at 15 for shipping.
A deal right now.
$40, 55 ships,
and a pack of bubble gum.
That's $5 less than in person at the store. At tax, it's like $10-12. I'm saving.
I do.
But
like I have to throw in shipping because it's like a huge man.
Oh yeah,
but,
it's a big chunk.
Spawn has been actually really great. Like I'm like on all of those, like the main Spawn title, King Spawn,
Gunslinger,
Gunslinger, and Scorch. Like
I couldn't
I'm
do
all
it.
of them.
I couldn't do it. I read it and I was like, I understand why people enjoy it. I was like, it's just not for my. This is not for my enjoyment. But I understand like the genius of it. So it's like,
oh yeah.
I just can't get into Spawn.
I need to buy more Spawn.
I do have one
of my favorites.
Go ahead, bro.
God Country by Donny Cates and Jeff Shaw. That is one I will always go back to. I know we mentioned it earlier. I don't know how it blanked my mind, like blanked.
I knew you were gonna say God Country. I was like, he's either saying Invincible or God Country, and then you.
God Country is probably the book that hits the closest to home for me because I've like dealt with the dementia and everything in my family in the past.
Yeah.
And so seeing that mixed with fantasy aspects and Jeff Shaw's artwork, like Jeff Shaw is one of my favorite artists working today. Just all of that combined. Like I'm honestly probably due for a reread at this point, but it is like revisiting, even if it's just like flip through it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh yeah, man. I'm gonna have to check that out. I've actually never read that.
Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah, man. That was the episode. That's Cultureology for you, Brandon, Bryce. We really appreciate you guys taking the time to come over to the channel and have a chat with us. We're gonna have their links in the description. We'll have Frank's link in the description. All the usual stuff. Like, subscribe, all of it.
Yeah, make sure you check out their shit.
Yes, please head over to Comix Kings, subscribe, channel, support, all that good stuff.
Yeah. Station, like he said.
Station, be excellent.
We out.
Peace out.
Yeah.